Lepo pozdravljeni. Začnemo prvi letošnji Muzeoforum s profesorico, ki prihaja iz Benetkah. Verena bo predstavila, za kakšno temo gre, in potem pa Aleksandra predstavlja še predavateljico.
Dober dan in lep pozdrav vsem, ki se nam priključujete posredno ali kasneje na posnetku. Nam je v veliko veselje, da danes gostimo med nami zelo ugledno profesorico iz Benetkah, ki jo bo Aleksandra podrobneje predstavila. In sicer je posvečeno tema bolj ikonografiji, vendar z enega širšega kota. Mogoče je to tudi vzrok, ker ikonografija je tema, ki se jo v muzejih razen umetnostnih zgodovinarjev pravzaprav manjkrat dotaknemo, ampak vzrok, da smo se odločili za ta muzeoforum, je predvsem vsebinski. Namreč lahko rečemo, da je postala doba sodobnih muzejev predvsem doba interpretacije. Doba interpretacije, kar pomeni, da je odvisno tako uspešnost našega muzejskega dela, predvsem pa stik z javnostjo, kot tudi posredno ohranjanje kulturne dediščine v izvornem prostoru, kar je brez dvoma najvišja naloga in cilj muzejskega delovanja, je prav dobra interpretacija. Kaj je interpretacija? Pravzaprav skoraj nikoli ne govorimo. Če govorimo predvsem v nekih deklarativnih nivojih, se ne poglabljamo tega, dejansko pa dobra interpretacija temelji na znanstvenem podatku, kajti če tega ni, potem to pomeni, da pravzaprav nismo nič kaj boljši od vseh tistih, nad katerimi se zgražamo. To so turistična podjetja, ne vedno, velikokrat pa. Ali pa, ne vem, interpretacija kar tako, ki temelji predvsem na nekih zgodbah in zgodvarjanju, zanemarimo pa pravzaprav znanstvene izhodišča. Dobra interpretacija vedno začrta zgodbo, ki sledi vsebinam, ki so znanstveno razkrite v kulturni dediščini in se navezuje na potrebe sodobne družbe. Predvsem si moramo odgovoriti, kaj bomo vsebinsko govorili in seveda s katerimi metodami oziroma na katere načine bomo izpeljali. S tem, ko napovedujem današnje predavanje, napovedujem pravzaprav tudi že dogodke, ki smo jih načrtali za letošnje leto v okviru Slovenskega muzejskega društva. Namreč nameravamo izpeljati eno serijo gostovanj po muzejih. Upam, da nas povabite v kakšnega od muzejev, enega že imamo, na Ptuju, in posvečeno bo točno temu interpretacija muzejskih vsebin in pa kako pišemo razstavne tekste, zato da ostanemo blizu in zanimivi naši publiki in zato, da se bomo navsezadnje spet vsaj približali tistim obiskovalcem, ki so v naše muzeje že prihajali in za katere ugotavljamo, da se danes v naših muzejih in pri naših prireditvah manjkajo. Tako, jaz se iskreno zahvaljujem profesorici, iskreno se zahvaljujem seveda tudi Slovenskemu muzejskemu društvu, Aleksandri, ki je to organizirala, in jo prosim, če našo gostjo podrobneje predstavi. Aleksandra.
Hvala, lepo pozdravljeni. Predstavila bi redno profesorico Akademije lepih umetnosti, Glorijo Vallese, ki prihaja iz Benetkah. Gloria se ukvarja v svojem bogatem opusu, lahko rečemo, predvsem z ikonografijo. Ena od takih zanimivih inspiracij je bil tudi obok svetega Marka v Benetkah, kjer so študenti pričeli proučevati ikonografijo in jo povezali z zvezdami in potovanji, in seveda potovanji Benečanov od srednjega veka, se pravi in v srednjem veku. Gloria pa se poleg ikonografije ukvarja oziroma ima fokus tudi na Hieronymusu Bošu. Ob enem pa je to ikonografijo, kar je zelo zanimivo, spodbudila v bistvu računalniška igra Assassin's Creed. In nekaj več o teh povezavah nam bo povedala sama profesorica Gloria. Gloria, izvoli.
Thank you very much for this invitation and for this introduction. I think that the interpretation in art history is very important, because when we don't understand the meaning of a work of art, the work of art physically disappears. The restorers who don't understand an artifact, they obliterate the parts of the artifact that are not understood. And this is very impressive, because interpretation, good interpretation, can make a work of art persist, stay with us. Bad interpretation can make a work of art disappear, but I mean physically disappear, not only culturally disappear. And we had a good example in this 13th century portal of the main church in Venice. This is San Marco in Venice, the Basilica di San Marco in Venice. In the 13th century, this portal was built, and 3 bas-reliefs arches were built, one after the other, beginning from below, of course. So this below is the most ancient. There is a second, and there is a third, not visible in this photograph. These artifacts were once richly polychromated and decorated with pieces of metal, which made it not only precious, but made the images that are in this arch the representation of the celestial sphere, of the nightly sky with the stars shining. These pieces disappeared in time and were not understood in time, so are still in the process of disappearing. I had the fortune, by chance, almost by chance, to discover that there was a connection between these figures that we are now seeing a little more in detail, and a real rigorous representation of the nightly sky. There is a sky globe actually represented in this portal, and this sky globe was not recognized until 10 years ago. So whatever intervention was done before on this arch tended to obliterate the reminders of this representation of the sky. Only now, the change of interpretation is going to have a change of restoration philosophy, so that the arch is beginning to be preserved in its real possible meaning. You have to imagine this arch polychromated. All the figures were in gold, all the part, only the faces and the hands were white or rose, the eyes and the beards were black, and the background was of a rich blue on the outside and a rich red in the inside. All this we know for certain because the restoration discovered the little pieces of the original polychromy on the arch. What me and my group of students and professors of the Academy of Fine Arts put in evidence for the first time is that beyond the polychromy, there was also little pieces of probably golden bronze that made a elements of the, for example, the accessories of the characters, but also they were on the hands, on the feet, on the garments. They composed the images of constellations. And these constellations in early morning and early evening became the only part visible of the bas relief. So you had the impression of looking at the real sky. Month by month, you had the real representation of the sky. When you are facing the first 6 months of the year, which are represented toward the clock tower in Venice, if you have the idea of the Piazza San Marco, you were actually looking at the northern sky. So you had the representation of the northern constellation in the northern sky. Then the second part of the year, you were facing the sea, the basin of San Marco, and you had represented the southern constellation. So you had a representation of the real sky. Of all these, we only have left the teeny holes in the marble that also held the bronze part applied. And our very, very high definition photographs reveals this thing for the first time. So now there is attention to, there is only one tiny piece of bronze still in place on the bas relief, only one we could discover, and it is half, is going away, so it needs to be saved. But before this, these little holes were interpreted as problems of the marble. So they were, the restorer tended to obliterate them. They canceled them, they put stucco on the holes so that there is this change of interpretation is going to be a change in the preservation of the artifact. I wanted to excuse, before I go in detail in the exam of the artifact, I wanted to excuse me because I had a technical problem with my computer, and my presentation that I had prepared expressly for this occasion is unfortunately not accessible. So I am using the website of the first exhibition we did about the discovery of this representation, the celestial sphere. I don't have all the photographs that I would like to show you, but I am going to, I hope I am going to manage with what we have here. If I, can I just move this thing there so that I have a... Okay. Did something not good, just a moment. What happened to the photograph? Okay. In the 13th century, when Venice did this rich rebuilding of San Marco, you know that San Marco was built 3 times. The first time in the 9th century, when the body of Mark the Evangelist was brought from Alexandria of Egypt into Venice. And so the Duke of Venice, the Doge, decided to build an annex of the ducal castle, not an independent church, but a chapel to preserve the body. This first building was damaged 1 century later and was substituted with a bigger one. And then in the about the year 1000, they decided that the town had become so important and relevant that they needed an express new building. This third building is the so-called Contarinian Basilic, from the name of the Doge Contarini, who started the building. At the half of the 13th century, this Contarinian building, which was only red brick, it was essentially red brick with only little pieces of marble here and there, was completely
renovated and completely covered with slab of marbles, columns, spolia from coming from the different parts of the Mediterranean. The most famous spolia, I think it is the 4 horses, the 4 bronze horses, which are Greek, possibly Greek classical, and came from Constantinople, from the hippodrome of Constantinople, where were before displayed, and the tetrarchs, the 4 very precious porphyry statues of the tetrarchs, which were put in a corner of the church. But a part of this rich spolia, many artifacts were done expressly for this new building and were exceedingly original and interesting. The Venetians wanted to copy from nobody. They wanted to establish one style of their own. And so these bas-reliefs on the portal were conceived expressly. They are new. They have no parallels, no important parallels in other churches in Europe. The idea for the first arch was that the language of the stars is universal, and is used by all the travelers of all the world. Traveling in the Middle Ages was essentially done by stars. Not only long travels, but also to go from a town to the next town, you had to watch to the stars. There were no other form of signaling. And so every kid learned from his father the essential of the sky, the essential that was the essential to travel, the seasonal stars that were needed to travel. The sky is so far from us that the stars are almost the same in all the world. But of course, in every part of the world, the legends attached to the same forms in the sky are different. The names of the constellations are different. For example, everybody knows the, Ursa Major. Ursa Major is, for the American, is the Big Dipper, but it's also the Big Chariot. It's for the ancient Egyptian, it was the leg of the ox. So in every part of the world, it had different names. So the interesting thing in this astronomical cycle is that the Venetians wanted to broadcast that they understood the stars of all parts of the world. So they invented an ambiguity which makes recognizable the constellation for people coming from different parts of the world. Everybody could recognize himself in this submark star. Every people of the world coming in front of the church could see something of his own. And this something of his own went not only in the Near East. So many constellations in this representation are from the Near East. We are going to see an example in no time. But even from Persia, India, China, and from Scandinavia. So the Venetian wanted to talk the language of everybody. This was very different from what other people, other nations were trying to do. Other nations told, this is me, and when you come here, you have to see me. And Venetian wanted to say, we understand everybody. Come here, and if you have something to sell, something to say, we can speak, and we have no prevention. So I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. Can I move up and down? Yes, I can.
Credo che bisogna andare
Devo
indietro,
chiudere?
indietro, sì.
O devo andare indietro?
Sì, giusto.
Così, no.
No.
Non bisogna andare indietro, bisogna chiudere.
Zgoraj, če klikne,
Posso provare? No, no.
Sono aperte dozzine di... Scusate. In realtà volevo, come abbiamo fatto prima, volevo exhibition, ok, no, exhibition, ok, the two eagles, okay. I have a particular affection for these representations because they are the first that almost by chance suggested to me that there could have been something to do with the sky in this representation of the lesser arch of the main portal. Until the year 2014, when I first published this new interpretation, the idea was that this lesser arch represented an allegory of the the combat between vice and virtue, or an allegory of the world being a prey of the evil, because most of the representation are animals fighting between them, and human figures are often hybrid, half human, half beast, and or they are doing very strange things, exhibiting their sex, or fighting between them, or destroying physically the frame of the arch. So this strange behavior was inexplainable, but we iconographers have an explanation for everything. So the idea was the fight of the evil, and when you don't say what to say of an artifact, that is the fight of the good and the evil. That is a very good explanation for almost everything unexplainable. But when I was on the door of some art, just looking up in the middle of the lesser arch, I have seen these two representations of a hawk or an eagle capturing an animal and flying, opening her wings to fly, and another eagle or hawk or capturing an animal with the wings closed. These two representations near reminded me the two Latin names, Vultur volans and Vultur cadens, which are the names of two stars, two very important stars. The Vultur cadens, which is not falling as the name could suggest, is closing his wings on the prey, which the aquila does when the hawk plunges on his prey, closes the wings in a characteristic way to prevent him from escape and lower his head. So the Vultur cadens is the eagle or hawk falling on his prey. The Vultur volans is the eagle or hawk flying away after capturing his prey. His head is upwards and the wings are spread, or one wing is spread. These are actually two stars in two important constellations. The right one, the Vultur cadens, is Vega, in the constellation that we, in the Greek fashion, call Lyra, the musical instrument, you understand? This other is Altair, in the constellation Aquila. Both the name Wiga and Altair come from the Arabic, and there is a lot of Arabic in this in this lesser arch of San Mark. A lot of Arabic, really. The name of Wega is, my Arabic may be not perfect, is Altair walking, that became Vega and means the falling eagle. The other is Al-Nazr Altair, the rising eagle. And we still have these two names in our contemporary astronomy. They are still named this way. But I was very astonished of this thing, and I had one of these moments saying, what seeing here what is happening. And around these two constellations, other shapes, constellation-like, appeared to me. I saw two bears, which actually proved to be the lesser and the greater bear, a warrior, which was the engonazing, the Greek engonazing, the warrior with the deflected knee, which was later identified as Hercules. And then I see another constellation, which is Cepheus. And these all were not randomly put, but they seem to compose the shape that I have in the actual map of the sky. So I was, I was observing this situation, and all appeared coherent. So in 1 year or two of patient reconstruction, I came to identify almost the totality of the representation, and it was actually a representation of the celestial sphere in the year above Venice, in the year in the 13th century. This photograph is ugly, but you can see the two eagles in Coronelli, late 17th century globe. Altair, the rising eagle, and the falling eagle. So. Now there is something very interesting. Their position above the head of the person entering the church is here. There is a third constellation here, which is in form of a cross. It is Sinus, the Celestial Swan, and this shape is actually that of a cross, so it's also called the Northern Cross. This cross is not visible, is only evoked, is not represented in the arch, but every traveler recognizing Altair and Vega evoked mentally the idea of this cross hovering in the middle of the portal, and on this we came later. Unfortunately, I am not able to enlarge these photographs. Maybe this is the most clear, is the Vultur Volans from a celestial art, celestial atlas by Regiomontanus, on the Vultur Volans. Vultur Volans has the open wings, and this is Vultur Cadens in a Venetian patera. Because another very interesting opening that came from this research is that since the San Mark is a sort of a synthesis of a language, architectural language, which is communal in all the town of Venice. So the clearing of these contents is going to be an important clearing about all the town. Let's move a bit and go here, because we go here if we are able to go. Oh, yes, of course. The constellation Taurus, Taurus, the celestial bull, is represented as a couple of camels, a camel coming and going. The Taurus as camel is again Arabic, because in the Bedouin, Arabic Bedouin, not cultural Arabic, Arabic Bedouin, the Arabic of the caravans. Arabic Bedouins had a legend that the Taurus is for them Alphanik, the stallion camel. And they have a beautiful story about the main, coming to you, moment. My God. Can you see something in this?
Yes.
Maybe if we close the
Yeah.
This is the constellation Taurus in the sky. I understand that it's difficult to see the animal in this group of stars, but the stars of the sky, the Taurus of the sky, is actually only the face. This triangle is the face of the Taurus, and these two far stars represent his horns. One very moving thing of the celestial Taurus is that he is so ancient that he represents an archaic kind of bull, which is now extinct. This is the Bos primitivus, which now exists no more. But since this constellation was first put together in the age of the caves, it's represented in the caves, Taurus already, and he has these long horns, you understand? Then he has only one leg here in front. And this star, which in this photograph appears white, is actually a strong orange hue in the sky, should be an orange hue. And this name is very famous. She is Betelgeuse. And there is a legend about Betelgeuse that he was the suitor, the wooer of the Pleiades. The Pleiades are here. They are 7 beautiful blue stars, all involved in blue stellar powder, which evoke the idea of veiled women, 7 veiled beautiful women. And Aldebaran, the suitor, was wooing these women, these beautiful women, but since he came alone, this is a Bedouin legend, since he arrived alone, the 7 splendid girls didn't want anything to do with him because they deemed him to be poor. So he went away, but he came back pushing in front of him this group of white little stars interpreted as a little camel, because the camel, the young born camel is all white. So the girls saw that he was actually rich. He had this herd of white little camels, and they took him for a husband. And so Aldebaran is the suitor. This legend actually explains what happens in the moment of the spring, where Aldebaran is first facing the Pleiades, and then the constellation rotates, and the white stars here are between Betelgeuse and the Pleiades, so it appears that he came again with the herd of white camels. So the name of the camel stallion is the Bedouin form of representation. In San Marco, you have, in the right place in the stellar map, you have the camel going away and then coming back, and this time is symbolically attaining the fruit on his let's try to do. Okay. As we talk of the Pleiades are now barely visible in the skies of our very strongly illuminated towns, but in the past they were one of the most interesting asterisks for every people in the art. So they have a lot of different legends. And one very interesting thing is that the master in San Marco tried to put together these legends. These are the Pleiades in a photograph. The shape of this asterism is a sort of interrogation mark or a sickle, which has 2 dots at the basis instead of 1. In the Greek word, the Pleiades were 7 beautiful women. This is a beautiful miniature from the Leiden Aratia a very rare manuscript, you know, of the 9th century, which is a collection of classical astronomical writing. And here the Pleiades are 6 women. But in other parts of the world, they are 7 birds or 6 birds around the rosette. They can be like here. Or they even can be, and this is the problem for the Master of San Mark, 7 ferocious warriors. The 7 samurai, the Chinese 7 samurai are actually the Pleiades. And the logo of the Pleiades in Japanese is Subaru, it's the name. And Subaru, the logo of the car, is actually representing a blue sky with 7 stars. But they were 7 formidable warriors also in ancient Mesopotamia. They were the 7 Sibiti, sons of the thunder and the wind, bringing destructions, and in ancient Caucasus. So the Master of San Mark had a problem. He had a tradition with 7. With 7 girls. And he had the 7 ferocious warriors. So he invented a fascinating solution. He invented 7 plus 2, the parents of the Pleiades, 7 very destructive little childs. With these little childs, they are very pretty. They are in camisole, so they are sexy in a way, but they are also very destructive. In fact, they are breaking the branch, the volute, and they are robbing the nests and pulling away the little bird just born, and they are robbing this. And so they are pretty, but they are destructive. This destructivity of the Pleiades is that because when they rise in the spring, there is a strong wind called Argestes, and this wind from northwest often destroys the trees when they are already with the new branches, and also destroy the nests when they have the little bird just born. And the Greeks called this wind the cleaner, because he cleaned the wood from all the weak branches and left only the very robust one. And so this is the destructivity of the Pleiades, okay? But the interesting thing here is that the Master of San Mark wanted that everybody coming in front of the church had the recognition of this group, you understand? So they are destructive and they are pretty and sexy, and so they are both things. He has been very faithful to the possibility that who comes from the Greek classical tradition as a recognition. So he gave attributions of the classical figures to the little boys. For example, this boy is the Greek Meropes, which was the unfortunate one. All the sisters were very proud because they were married or well, raped by gods. And only this was very unfortunate because she married an unfortunate human, not a god. And so she was humiliated. She was kneeling and looking towards down. In the sky, she has the stellar dust is all around her head as she was veiled. And if she had her 2 arms raised to veil, to hide her head. And this most unfortunate among the Pleiades was also the most important because she was the one opening the spring. So today is the first day of spring, and this is the feast of this figure. With our photographs, we discovered that this little Pleiad has actually a medallion in front of her Ternec with the sign gamma. Gamma is the vernal point, the point where the sun astronomically is on the opening of the spring. So this is very, very interesting and very new. This shows the direction of the alcestes of the wind, spring wind. The path of the sun is represented in the lesser arc in 3 points. The sun is identified as in antiquity with the lion. The lion, when the Western tradition of astronomy was established, the sun was in the constellation, was identified with the constellation lion in the moment of his annual top performance. The sun is top performing in June, as you know, at the time of the summer solstice. And for the Assyrian, for example, the sun was in lion in the summer in June, so that sun and lion came to be associated. Now, you know, because of the precession, this identified doesn't work no more. But at this epoch, we find that the sun was still seen as the lion. So in this arc of some arc, the lion is at the two bases of the representation and top slightly on the right in the moment of the summer solstice. There is a thing very interesting. The spring rebirth of the sun is represented by this lion that changes suddenly its course and bites this horned something. Can be a bull, can be what's the name? Something horned. What's the name? Deer? A deer? Okay. In autumn, he became so weak that a little child can overcome him, and the child puts it on paws up and makes with him a sort of barge to go across the sky to the new season. This little child is probably the star Sirius, and this is the winter crisis of the sun. In the summer, in the top of the summer, this thing happens. Can do it. Okay. This thing happens that, you know, the first half of the year, the sun grows and grows. Every day is a little longer than the previous. The sun is higher in the sky. His heat is stronger. But at one point, he has to stop. 21 of June, he enters in a crisis and is compelled to go down, go down, go down, and the annual cycle repeats. In this point, in many Venetian monuments, they put an image of Christ as Sol Invictus to create a difference between the natural sun, which has to be humiliated at one point, and Christ as Sol Invictus, who doesn't know death and humiliation, it lives forever. This representation shows Hercules Geniculatus. Hercules, the man with the knee and gonazin for the Greek, who overcomes the sun in the moment which has reached his top height in the sky. Aratus of Solis, you know, the writer of the poem Phenomena, told us we don't know why this constellation is put there and is so vindictive with the sun. It appears that his only task in the ear is waiting for the sun when it arrives there and put him down and bring him back. So the extraordinary thing, so this warrior is correctly put near the two celestial bear, the lesser bear and the major bear, and his knee is bent, and his foot is on the lunar serpent. But what he's doing here is confronting the lion. The very interesting thing is, since this constellation is put north, is the north extreme that the sun can reach in his annual travel. So the Venetian master has given him Norrene Scandinavian characters. He has put, he has, for example, here the fibula, the Dragonesque Fibula in his face. He has upraised hair like the Celtic warrior had, and is grinning and showing his teeth in the berserker of the northern warrior. He has this oval shield, which was a novelty brought by the Normans. The inside of the shield is actually very well depicted, and we can see the guige, which was this strap which allowed the warrior after the first assault to push the shield back and continue to have the both hands free for the melee. And all these details, so also the handle of the sword as Celtic knots, Celtic motif. And this is extraordinary enough. Can't remember how I go out of here, but I can do. I would like to go out. Can't remember. Okay. So we have here some. No. Oh. So this is the Dragonesque Fibula, an exemplar in the Met Museum of New York. It was actually a piercing put in the face to make the look more terrible. This is the part of the sky that the warrior is defending. The sun is not to trespass above this line. This is something very extraordinary. I would love to show them, but I can't. Oh, okay, no. Scusate. These are three pieces from the Lewis chessmen. The Lewis chessmen are Viking pieces of a game of chess in walrus ivory. They were found, they take the name of the Scottish islands where they were found on the shore. There was probably a shipwreck there, and they stayed there for the long, and they are now divided between the British Museum and Edinburgh National Museum. The warriors interpreting the rocks, they have these gritted teeth and this opened eye because this was the berserker. It was the trance of the warrior. When the warrior was in the middle of the battle, he had this facial, very strange transformation. And so we find all these aspects in our warrior. And this is extraordinary because in this battle, the lion and the warrior seem an alter ego one of the other. Both are gritting their teeth and both have the, their hair rising, and they sort of are one tied to the other in this deadly battle. Okay. And now I am again stuck inside here. Great. Only a little more about this is completely beautiful. There is a part of this research showing that this ornament, the fuserole, which is considered an ornament and is found already in many classical monuments, okay, is actually a counter of degrees. The annual cycle, the annual calendar, we can say, was counted in degrees of the zodiac, or the 12 stations that the sun does in his apparent orbit around the. So one pearl is 1 day, one fuse is 4 days, and you can visually count very easily at what point each celestial event happens. There is an exactitude, which is extraordinary, of correspondence between the front part of the arc and the inside part. The front part, with its regular volutes, represent the course of the moon. We have a group of moons that go along the year. The inside of the arc represent the course of the sun, the stations of the sun through the constellation. And this fuserole creates the correspondence between the lunar part of the calendar and the solar part. These two figures are at the front basis of the arc, represent the lunar nodes, the points in which the lunar orbit, annual orbit, intersecates the one of the sun. There is one ascending node and one descending node, 2 in 1 year. Their ancient symbol are an omega, upturned omega for the rising part of the travel of the moon, and omega for the when she goes down past the sun. These two figures, these two cavaliers, which is a male cavalier with the omega, with a descending node, is riding a bull, and this female with the ascending symbol of the node is riding a lion. Well, these two figures are from India, the Indian lore of the. They are here and they are here. They represent the two nodes, and the corresponding figures are Shiva and his wife Parvati or Durga, which have as vahanas, as vehicle in the sky, a bull and a lion. These figures represent the marriage of the sun and of the moon. They, in their legend, incur in periods of separation and periods in which they are consonating and they are together. And their introduction in the lunar calendar of San Mark makes us understand that the Venetian wanted to show off a bit in matter of geography. Because I don't really think that these symbols were so very popular. If there is maybe something that you would like to ask about the story, otherwise I go here. I hope I go here.
I always thought that these two nodes are Rahu Ketu. Are they not?
Rahu and Ketu are a representation of the nodes, of the personification of the nodes, but not the point in the cycle. Okay, they are two separate deities, but here he is not representing. So I am sorry that I don't have the photograph. Since they are walking in opposite side, he is showing a position, a moment of the year, not two persons, not two personifications. We hinted to the, so this is the arc. We said that here we have the two eagles, and we said that the two eagles evoke the invisible constellation of Cygnus, the swan. The swan is has his major star in the tail, which is called the neb, the Arabic for the tail. And this little head is a little white star, which is named Albireo, and is classically identified with Jesus' child. Now, in the hypothetical reconstruction of the original shape of this arc, and I am sorry that I don't have all the photographs I need, forget this superior arc, which probably was not in the initial, in this moment project. We have up here three steps, which are now empty. And there is a sort of space empty. And here there is an 18th century, not original, not coeval with this moment of the church, mosaic, which I have obscured for. In the Patriarchal Museum seminar, in the seminar in Venice, it is preserved this very extraordinary group, which is now composed of three figures, but originally was more extended. It is the Virgin sitting in throne and showing with a crown like a queen, and showing Jesus Christ to the three kings. We only have a king extant, the older one, the former one, and we have Saint Joseph. This group, which is now it's in Aurigina stone, but shows, like the rest, the traces of a rich polychromy and gold elements. This group came from Saint Mark. We know that it was until the 19th century in Saint Mark, and then we lost, you know, in 1848, it goes lost for a period, then it reappears in the actual collection in the seminar. Other pieces of this composition have been identified. There is another group of the same hand, very important, in the Museum of Cadoro, showing figures from the killing of the innocent child. So an event connected with the nativity. Anyway, there is a wide discussion about where actually in Saint Mark these figures could have been. A possibility, only one of the possibility, is that it was here, and therefore the ideal representation was that from the sky came the image of the cross of Christ with the little star falling in the knees of the Virgin as the little Jesus Christ. The idea is that this group, this is not represented, not ever was, but the idea is that in this way, all the history of the salvation would be resumed in this point, because Jesus is born to be crucified, to save mankind, and to receive the recognition of the foreign nations in the form of the three kings. So you have sort of everything here. we have a mosaic showing that here for a certain time was the idea was to put a big, I mean big, so forget this arc, a big mosaic pala with the Pantocrator, for example. This also was never, apparently was never executed, and in the 13th century, apparently the project of the door underwent under many change of conceptions. So we probably will never know, but this could be interesting because connects these all laical, all astronomical presentation of the ark with something which is Christian and pertinent with the content of the church. There is a Mass of the Advent, the period preceding the Christmas, which is called the Mass Rorate Celi, because its opening invocation was please skies rain down the Savior, and the people had to respond, and you earth open and germinate the Savior. And then the Psalm 18 or 19, according to different numeration, was read in its entirety, and it said it is the song of the firmament, and the firmament. The song of the firmament says, the firmament renders glory to God, and it proclaims its marvel from a corner of the earth to the other. Without word, without song, they can express this, and everybody simultaneous in all the earth understand. This says the Psalm. So the idea is that in the coming of the Savior, what is hidden becomes manifest. All the sense is opened to the world by means of the firmament, which is this perfect work of the Lord, and which can, without words, without translation, be understood in all the art. In fact, in this moment of the first half of the 13th century, the theme of the St. Mark Basilica seems to have been the Pentecost, the miracle that makes the word of the God understandable by all the people. The first mosaic that decorates the inside of the church, the first cupola, was devoted to the Pentecost. And you see after the execution of Christ, the apostle remained closed in the dining room where they had the Last Supper, and they were very frightful and they didn't want to go out. And then suddenly this miracle happened, that a flame came from the sky and divided in 12 flames that went on their head, and they were full of spirit. And from that moment on, they went out and started to preach. And that was the miracle of the Pentecost. Everybody understood them from different nations, from different countries. And they said, why? We are from the Cappadocia, from Africa, and we understand what these people is saying. This is in the Apostle, in the Acts of the Apostle is narrated this story. So the Venetians wanted to be interpreted as the people of the Pentecost, the people who could speak the languages of the other countries. So they put the Pentecost in this civil basilica. You remember, it is Basilica Ducale. It didn't depend from Rome. It depended from the Duke of Venice. And he wanted this program, this political, theological, but political program, that Venice can speak with everybody, and the language of the stars is the language of everybody in the world. Everybody coming in Venice can recognize and connect in some sort with this republic, which is different from all the other republics. This was the period we were talking before. We are in the first, presumably, in the first half of the 13th century. This is the period in which the father and the uncle of Marco Polo did their first travel across Asia to China. They went one time to the Grand Khan. They brought a letter of the Pope to him, and they brought back the answer. And that travel was something incredible. I don't know if you have, if you went to China. We go with a flight, that goes from Amsterdam to China, takes 14 hours to go all across. It is impressive, the immensity of this. And they went by camel. How many men could they have? Hundreds? Across the desert, across the mountains, across the steppe, passing from a camel, from a tribe to the other, with a star interpreting the passage, the kind that they had to understand where they were going, more or less. But they had also to the sky as only guide. They went in the second part of the century, they went a second time. In the second travel, they did only one part by land. They went to Arabia and then took ships to do the rest of the travel. And in that travel, they brought with them Marco Polo, which was then 17 years old, and came back that he was 34. So he spent a long period there. But the Polo family is not the one who did this extraordinary Venetian, the Polo, the Zen, the Contarini, Damosto, Querini, went in the Northern Europe. They went in the Amber way towards the Baltic. They went in Asia, they went in Africa. So they were really wide, long distance travelers. So this theme of the stars is almost extraordinarily near to the spirit of this first moment of the economical empire of Venice. This economical empire marvels me because they started from this group of moody little islands that nobody wanted. They had escaped there and the barbarian let them go because it was mosquitoes, it was unbelievable. And they, from this little inexistent territorial situation, invented an empire. Most of this empire was cultural, was the originality of this culture. Because here they are they have no fear of the novelty. They are inventing something. I don't know, this language is intensely original. And it is what they were selling in this moment. They were selling availability. Speak with us. No? We can speak, we can understand. So this is, for me, very beautiful. And one thing, if you are not too tired of this, my difficult meditation, one thing that I wanted to say is this curious history of Assassin's Creed, if you are interested in. I know that many adults despise video games in principle, and they think that a boy that is, or girl that is playing video game is not learning something or studying or doing something useful. But the problem is video game is like to say movie. There is the trash movie and there is the masterpiece movie. So we should learn to distinguish now. So I was playing on the PlayStation this beautiful, yes, my PlayStation. I am a founder of the New Technologies for the Art faculty in the Academy of Fine Arts. We started in 1999 with 11 students, and now we have 600, and we have become the most the biggest school inside the academy, near the painting, sculpture, sort of. And I believe in what I am telling, so I was gaming, and one of these games, which was actually in his first apparition, marvelous, it was Assassin's Creed by the Canadian firm Ubisoft. The very first, this has now become one of the most popular franchises in the world, but it has also lost, I'm sorry to say, a lot of quality. It's very commercial in this actual form, but the first, second, and maybe third parts were absolutely artistic. The very first one appeared in 2007 and was the history of, secret agent of the times of the First Crusade. He had to perform a very difficult and dangerous mission, assassination mission in the Palestine of the First Crusade. During these missions, he went alone. He had to visit the towns to understand where he could escape, where was his target, how to make friends with people. And he visited Jerusalem, Acre, Damascus, and we have these marvelous, but I say marvelous reconstructions, very faithful reconstruction of the architecture of this town with the real monuments, with the people, they are dressed appropriately. They used Oxford historians' equipe to suggest the reconstruction, and the absolute genius designer to reconstruct the buildings. And this hero, when exploring the town, has to climb minarets or bell towers. He sits on the top of the bell towers, looks at this wonderful urban landscape all around him. And his name is Altair, the flying eagle. So when I had played this game 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, I had no more. I wanted more, but I had no more. One night, I went on, on Google. I Googled Altair, and I learned everything about the flying eagle. so pass some time, and I come on the front of San Mark, and I say, "Oh, that is the flying eagle." I wouldn't have known nothing about the flying eagle without Altair and Assassin's Creed. So I am very grateful of this extraordinary situation. And in the meanwhile, I have become a member for this research and the follow-up, of course. I have become a member of the Italian Society of Archaeoastronomy. I learned a lot of astronomy. I learned to use important instruments. One capital instrument is the free source virtual planetary stellarium. I can also show it to you because I am online. Stellarium allows you to reconstruct the sky over a location, the world, in an epoch that you are interested in. So if I want to see the sky above Venice in 13th century, I can reconstruct it. I see the stars as the Venetians. So then the use of stellarium has become one of the main instruments that I use now. So in the second exhibition, we studied the calendar of the 12 months, which is in the second arc of San Mark, using stellarium, and the results were absolutely extraordinary. So stellarium is changing the history of this kind of studies. It's extraordinary. And so I have faith that the technology, the new Stars and Travel exhibition came out from super high definition photographs of the artifact and the use of stellarium, which was a game-changing experience.
How did you say it's a full name of Stellarium?
Stellarium.org. this book. I have 1,000 windows of it. Where do I go to the search?
You must close.
Here?
No, you must close in how you.
I have 1,000 of windows of it. Great. 1 million. Stellarium is so fantastic, and it also came. Stellarium.org. Okay. No. Stellarium. Punto. You can do it. Org.
Če napišeš samo Stellarium, ti ga bo itak vrl. Pošli samo Stellarium.
Okay, great. You did it. The web version has been conceived for use when you go out at night with your tablet or phone, but it is also what we can call a stellarium for dummies, because it is a simplified, not astronomically savvy people system. So, for example, he asks to use your location, and if you allow it, he finds where you are and shows the situation in real time. Above your head, you can set the date and the hour here, and you have also different settings, because, for example, you can make appear the line of the constellations or the art of the constellation. So you can see the shapes, no, of the constellation. You have an azimuthal grid to compare the distance, for example, and also you have the equatorial grid that shows you where the North Pole, the sky North Pole is. Okay, if I want to change this location, I go to search, for example, how do I? Okay. Not extremely practical, but right, Venice, and I look for, no, oh my, I'm sorry, what did is there a way to go back? No.
Yes, here.
Oh, mamma mia. I did a capital mistake. Is there a way to go to the memory, no?
Yes, Stellarium.
Yes. Okay. Now help me a bit. Okay, here. Okay. And I say use this location, and it transfers me here. Then I go here, I stop the time, I go back in the time, which is moving, so I can see the history traveling backwards in front of me. I go through the French Revolution to the discovery of America. I go, and I go, and I go, and I go, until I came more or less, and now I tell you why I say more or less.
Are we near the Venice or we are somewhere else?
No, now I am in Venice.
Okay.
I am in the half of 13th century. I am facing north. I am at twilight, but I can of this very day. But I can travel through the night. This, for example, is midnight, and then it is day. But here I can eliminate the atmosphere. So I can see the invisible stars, because the stars are still there. No, it is day. We cannot see, but they are still there. Okay, and I can take away the landscape too, so that I can see what is below the horizon. The horizon is this delicately foggy line, because I can still have these lines to guide me. Okay. So that I have everything I need to see what the people of this time from this location, from Venice, could see, which is an enormous advantage. So with this, I can rotate, of course, my view. I'm now facing south. I'm now facing west. Okay. For example, it is using this instrument that I understood that the representation of some marked portal face the actual sky on one direction and on the opposite direction according to the season. This instrument is absolutely great and is doing marvel. Most of the archaeoastronomy is now moving in the space of prehistory. So in the medieval archaeoastronomy, most is about alignment of the buildings. Most buildings are aligned. You know, the churches, for example, are aligned. From most of the Christian buildings are aligned. I have the apse on the east and the face of the west. Some are, but there are subtle. It's not the right west and right west, because they had the necessity that the light on Easter Day, on Christmas Day, came from a particular window on the altar, for example. No? So the windows and the alignment of the building itself was calibrated on these events. Going back with Stellarium can help in seeing what they actually meant, because the sky, because of the precession, is slightly rotated, not much rotated, but in some centuries something little change on the points on the horizon where the star rise and set. So this is an extraordinary instrument. My exploration is a little solitary. There are not many iconographers using systematically this instrument for now, but this is only the beginning. This is just an opening of a field. It's possible that
yes, but in archaeology, I may say, there are some people using that. Not me, of course, because I have no idea.
Well, why of course? Not me, of course. Why, of course?
Because I have no idea about that. I should have, because of Mitrea, and Mitrea are connected to
for example,
stars very much.
For example, there is studies with Stellarium on Mitrea. Yes, this group of people is very interesting. They are all voluntary. There is one Italian called Georg Zotti that opened the annual convention of the Italian Society of Archaeoastronomy this year, which was held online. in Perugia because we were in the middle of the pandemic. And he showed what they are doing in Austria. They did an unbelievable reconstruction in Austria of Stonehenge for kids. The Stonehenge for kids with all the, of course, with all the apparatus to show the solstice and equinox and this kind of things. And this is transforming the the Museum of Science is becoming a very entertaining place for kids, of course. And astronomy is made available for everybody. You can have this in your telephone and go out at night and finally discover what is all that you are seeing.
Yeah, about archaeology. Okay, it is our last Muzeoforum was in December. And our guests were colleagues from Vučedol, from Vukovar. Probably you know the name of the of the town, which was really ruined destroyed in the war between Serbians and Croatians. Yeah, and there is a big archaeological site with the name Vučedol, and it was found a lot. It's end of the Neolithic and the beginning of the Bronze Age. And it is a very important site beside the Danube. And then there was found a lot of ceramics, the pots with ornaments. And everybody believed and explained that these are beautiful ornaments, nothing else. But then came a colleague from Zagreb, and his name is Professor. He came in touch with astronomical center in USA, in California, I think so. And Professor Durman was able at the end to explain that actually we don't have ornament on the special pottery, but there was the first calendar with Pleiade and with Orion. Yeah, and with Orion, with horizon, with sun, and a lot of things, you know, which was absolutely fantastic, because then they try to explain also the one special event that was the astronomical event, the Pleiade and Orion. I think that was something. Mars and Venus came and then just went away, you know. Conjunction. Yes, conjunction, right, and then
you know that they stay together. They stay together at times.
Yes, from Hephaestus with the golden nest, you know. But anyway, then they were able to explain a special grave where I don't know how many girls are 7 in Pleiade. Yeah, 7 girls. With the special ornament, yeah, but it was cut in the school, you know, and then one man in the middle and another school, I don't know now, and it was deliberately, they were not victims, but they were, sacrificed, and it is absolutely perfect, and it was such a beautiful exhibition done. It was also in Ljubljana, I do remember that, in National Museum. That was really very big.
I would like to know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and now because I mentioned that the town was destroyed, they rebuilt the whole town, they renewed a museum, they have a new museum in Vukovar. And this is a new museum that you can observe, you can see,
Interact.
Yes, interact also. It's really a very genius, on the very genius way done, the interpretation of the culture, because this is really like the beginning of the European culture, which is absolutely right, you know. It was the beginning of the Bronze Age, the beginning of the production of metal production, you know, and they were somehow linked also to the very, very important cultures of that time, which were in the Near East and in Egypt. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's really fantastic, and I'm very. This is a really good way how to find and how to combine the interpretation of some, let's say, also could be ornaments that we don't just we are taking like it's ornament. Actually, it's not always, you know, and it's linked also to the very special knowledge that the people from that time, they do have that knowledge. We know more.
Yes, it is our problem, not there yet. This destruction of the notion of ornament is very interesting. Yeah. Because I think that the more you go in the past with the people, the more people had no idea of pure ornament. Pure ornament is an idea of the 19th century, not before. Before, the more you go in the past, they had more important things to do. They had to be also ornamental, but also useful. So it's, you know, in other words, it's easy that under what is believed to be ornamental, you find also an utilitarian, very serious problem. And people who had no writing, yeah, they had to find a system of communication to the yes. other, to yeah. fixate knowledge and to communicate to the younger people. So, for example, the idea of constellations, no? Yeah. Why that is a Taurus, what is a bull, and what is an eagle, and the eagle eats the bull. And you have to tell the children, you have all these dots in the sky, and you have to choose the one which are important because they change the season, so they anticipate the moving of the animals, you understand? Yeah. Yeah. Agriculture is not possible if you cannot predict. Absolutely. If you don't have a calendar, but if you don't write, if you don't have a notation, you have to have some way of impress in the children the idea that is going, but that is coming back, this sort of thing. So the ornament, for the continuous ornament, is another problem. The meander, yeah. Because you have, if you only salvage a piece, you have the wall. Yeah. If you all salvage a piece of carpet, you have all the carpet, you understand? So the continuous motives are important because only a piece can generate again the wall. Yeah, that's so right. Probably we lost a lot in the meaning of this kind of.
Absolutely, because they were also very, very good observers. You know, it was very important how to observe the nature, the animals, the people, the behavior, you know, and the sky, if you wish, and which we are no more. You know,
I agree.
Yeah, and this ability to observe, it was very important in the past.
Was vital
of the vital meaning, yeah, and even more. You know, today we are, especially from the 19th and 20th century, our knowledge is it's being very scientific, very, very factual. But we don't understand anymore the nature that was very rich from another side, the knowledge of the nature of the human, of the animals, which is so-called hermeneutic knowledge, was most important, and we lose it. And now it's this imbalance. You know, we don't understand the architecture, the meaning of the forums, the meaning of
far from their artifacts.
Yes,
no? Because
yes,
we are not accustomed with that kind.
Yeah, and this is really, and if we are addressing a good interpretation, this is the question of interpretation, because it's not possible to enter the past, but it's possible to understand. That way, you know, also, yeah, it's fantastic. It's really fantastic.
Yes, I think so. This is a real revolution.
It is a revolution, yeah. Okay, even our colleague, Ivan Spreitz, he's a very, very important researcher. He researched in Southern America and in Maya, the Maya cultures, and he's astroarchaeologist. And he found a lot of things in jungle, because an explorer also, because he was able to do that because of the special knowledge of astronomy. It's really very important. But using that in ornaments is even more genius.
It's surprising.
It is, yeah. I would like to ask you, dear colleagues, if you have some questions. Ask the question.
About Assassin's Creed, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, but you know, I have a colleague, a young girl archaeologist. She is so good in gaming, even in producing games, not only playing. And I think this is a very good opportunity to bring the new knowledge in our museums and to make them more attractive for the young people, especially for young people, because in the movie industry and also in gaming, there are so many people that they help with very good knowledge, professional knowledge. I think this is really an industry now. No? Not I think, I'm sure.
There is this delightful thing about the second Assassin's Creed is located in Florence and Venice in the Renaissance, and is very famous for this because the reconstruction of the two towns in the age and the visiting that you do of the monuments is so incredible. So incredible. So,
yeah, you can
they put a database inside the game. When your assassin visits Santa Maria Novella in Florence, it appears something that says, you want to know something about Santa Maria Novella? This thing was ridiculous in the first reviews because they said, why the boys who are gaming, they only want to combat and they don't care. They go inside there and they learn everything. There is another part of this game when you try all the machines of Leonardo. So I did a spectacular flight over Venice with the flying machine. And in the database, it is explained. See, I did it many times. I enjoyed that. They explain, and the boys, as they learn everything about the Pokemons, they go inside and learn everything about Leonardo and about the monuments. And if you want them to study them in the books, they don't want. But if you give to them like that, they want more, they ask for more, they learn everything. This is nodal for modern education, because they are accustomed, also another thing, they are accustomed to learn hand-on. They want to intervene. They don't want to stay in the museum like that, like the old
this
people.
This is a new generation.
Yeah. So if you give things that they can handle, they come with you where you want to go.
Yeah, that's right. This is a new generation, a new opportunity.
To interact because they are. Yeah, everybody interacts with his phone, so they cannot stay looking at things like that. It's not natural. For new people, it's not natural to learn things like that.
Yeah, for new generations not, yeah. And we are expecting that they will come in the museum, and we don't respect that they are able to do, yeah, expecting something else, yeah, something else. Another way of thinking is that not another way of perception, you know, and we just have to adapt that. That's it. It's nothing to do. Yeah, it's really very interesting. So
did I also do the movie?
Yes.
Assassin's Creed.
Yes.
Yes.
So
but for me, yes, that was a form of banking on the fame of the character and of. But in my opinion, going from the interactive movie, which is a game, to the passive movie, which is going back.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't try I'm sorry to say that I didn't try the game yet.
You should.
Yes,
you should absolutely.
Okay, yeah, because I'm usually using the reconstructions from Assassin's Creed for my for my lectures. No, for my lectures. Really?
Yeah, really. For Damascus, for example, I told
you.
No,
Alexandria.
Alexandria.
You have seen
what's the name of Alexandrian? Il faro. They did a stupefying reconstruction that you can visit from inside. You go inside.
But what about museum? And you can move it in a museum, in a library.
The library of Alexandria.
Yeah, it's really because you are talking. You have possibility to reconstruct. Okay, usually we have an idea like a doubt, like, okay, it's not a scientific. It is scientific because the whole group of the scientists are working on that game. You know.
Do you have a PlayStation?
No.
No,
but I have children.
Come on, confess. You are between friends. Confess.
No, it's okay. I have a lot of children in my house.
Oh,
so
I don't have a lot.
Okay, it's okay. No, but it's really pity because you know that even scientific interpretation could be, and it is, wrong, you know, because you are never sure that some interpretation it's just like it past was. We don't know how past was, and we never will know. Yeah, and this is something very frustrating for today's people, you know, to say you will never know. It's impossible. We are scientists, you know, from the scientific point of view, we know that and that, but these are facts, and we have to construct interpretation, and we just guess about.
Yes, and learning is a progress. There is no final. Yeah,
even the interpretation. The interpretation is a process, it's never-ending process. And this is that. More often you are, the final more possibility you have. It's really...
The final truth is not there for us to attain.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's fantastic, really.
Not in this life.
Okay. Good. Dear colleagues, Alexandra, imaš kakšno igro v mislih?
No, not really, but I have one other question. When we were in Venice and we went to see your exhibition, I remember the tattooage that they were on the faces of people from Polynesia somewhere.
Yes,
they were representing the stars in a way.
Yes, this
in a similar way.
Yes, I am sorry that is a part of which I had no possibility of. So there is inside some art. There is an archivolt like the ones on the main door, and this archivolt is even older, because probably it was dismounted from the portal when they built this new one. Can I call this new? So it is beginning of the 13th century. It was brought inside the church and remounted in a Gothic chapel showing it's where the body of Saint Isidore is preserved. And there is the statue of Isidore sleeping and waiting for the call of the resurrection. And above him, like a ciel-de-lis on the medieval cove, there is one archivolt similar to the one we but even older. This archivolt is obviously astronomical, is the same kind of the one we just examined. One of the roundels has two sirens, two identical twins, which are sirens in the lower part, and they are Siamese sisters. They have two upper bodies and one only lower part, and they have two small. They are coming towards us with a flower in a hand, and near them there are two dragons. These dragons are very peculiar because they have only one horn coming out of their, and they have a mouth like a dog full of teeth. They have two short wings and they end as serpents. These dragons came from Indonesia because they are the Pranaga of the Mekong River, and they are on the Buddhist temple of Southeast Asia. So what is doing Southeast Asian dragon in this monument? Observing these two figures with our new campaign, photographical campaign, we remarked that they have the trace of tattoo on their face. They have their hair are like dreads. They are savage. They have no ornaments. They just their hair coming long dreads, and they have scarification on the ears. Regular scarification on the ears, and they have tattoos on their face, and on the nose they have on the tip of the nose there is a little escaping man, a running man of some kind. So this kind of tattoo is from Maros, from Borneo. So we are in the first half. This thing needs to be studied more in depth. But in the very first beginning of the 13th century, we have an artist of very Oriental language. It's not Western, even in this kind of sculpting, that puts something which is in the Southwest Asia in his sculpture. So in a moment in which we are not sure who were the first and when were the first European to put the foot so far in Asia, and how far they went, because this part of the earth was officially cartographed by the Portuguese at the beginning of the 16th century. There was no concrete proof of European being so far, but it was known that both the Arab and the Venetian traders probably reached this part, because the species from that part came, for example, what's the name? Reum barbarum. Reum barbarum came from this part of the world too. So there was suspicion that we went there, but no proof. So inside San Marco, we have this incredible document, not studied yet.
Yeah, but you know, even from the time of the Roman Imperium, we know that a lot of things, the Romans were in regular contact with India.
With regions.
And also with Indonesia, because there were found Roman coins in that regions. Yeah, it's always, it is discussed, or it was only the exchange, or it was in reality the contact or the
a direct presence or just a trade?
Yeah, it is a little bit, yeah, but for India it is short because it was also discovered Roman merchant
merchandise.
site. Yeah, in India you can find it was discovered a lot of amphoras and even the glass, and then it was discussed.
No, the last year was about the Middle Ages. The moment in which the Middle Ages restores the trade for this far.
Yeah, but the ships from Middle Age were not able to go the same way on as the Roman ships because it was really the difference between
the technical way of driving it. No, they're using the winds.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So there is a lot to learn, a lot to do, a lot to discover, because really we are sometimes so, let's say, high, like in our ideas, as we know everything, we don't know everything. It's really a lot to discover. And the people from the past, they were really able to travel, able to come into
everywhere,
and everywhere, even in Paleolithic.
How far the medieval people went? I think that they had no idea where they went. They just went because if you look in the
no, excuse me, we don't know.
You're frightened.
We don't have any idea today for them, but probably they knew. Because it was always like that, you know. It was another idea, it was another concept.
No, because their maps, the few maps of the world that we have from the Middle Ages is sort of, the word appears a little shorter than it is actually. It's very concentrated.
Yeah, we just don't understand it, you know. It's like today's. If you look at, I don't know, of modern map, you are unable to understand also, or the modern media, you know, it's also the difference. Even in the time of Paleolithic, we know that they did travel from Africa to Europe and elsewhere. Yeah. So it's we don't have.
Yes, I think that all these astronomical knowledge that we are discovering about the extreme past of humanity was in relation with long distance travels. They did these great migrations, and they had to add some form of help from the stars.
It's not true that they were without any maps. They have all maps above.
Well, one idea which is interesting to demolish is that we inherited this idea from the late 19th century that evolution of man in history is from childhood to adult life. So the man of the cave was the child, ignorant, incapable of everything. And in our speaking terms, the caveman means one, you know, people very rough and very... No, they were technologists. They were technology of the stones, but with their it was not digital technology, but they were high specialized people. They had great knowledge, and before the writing, because writing in our common place description is the turning point, you know, from not civilization to civilization is the idea that
from the Western point.
It's not true, because before they were able to communicate, to pass over notions, to pass over knowledge. They had a different method. One method was the narration of myths to children, elaboration and passing over of myths, of stories. Storytelling, which was memorable. So you see that puts out 3 heads and runs past that one and divorced, and the kids could remember this. The more it was strange and unusual and cruel, because little child adore the cruelty, so the more they tell
Yeah,
it
but
is
the life is cruel.
destroying, but life is
It's nothing to do. It's nothing to do. And storytelling, it's the basic transmitters or media for the knowledge. For the knowledge. For facts, probably right, the scripture.
So all the narratives were serious, so they were cruel enough to be serious, and American parents, they wanted to cancel from, Disney's movie, the part where the princess runs in the night across the wood and the trees seem to... They want to cut out this piece from
Not
the movie.
only Americans, even in Western countries, even in our civilization, it's really stupid. It's very stupid.
No, it's not allowed to be that stupid.
Okay. Storytelling, it's really very, very important.
Is amazingly important.
Yeah.
Even fiction. If, for example, going back to Assassin's Creed, the problem is that young people want to learn everything about Santa Maria Novella or Santa Maria, because there the hero has an important adventure. But if you try to communicate in a museum, a monument, without the hero, the young boy is not involved, is not interested, because there is not the human part that drives you inside the monument. So I have seen a lot of projects, even very expensive projects. For example, I don't say that. European projects to make, interaction, visiting of monuments, of medieval important, late Roman important monuments, visiting, as you know, when you buy a house, you understand, when you buy a house, they allow you to visit digitally. Yes. No? But if you don't have a hero, I have no interest in visiting. If there is not the hero in the story, I cannot visit. I visited, but I cannot interest. Yeah, this is important.
This is important for museum people to know that and to respect. There is no way to learn by facts, because our brains are made like that. You learn just by storytelling, by stories, by important people, as you are telling us, by heroes, really by stories. It is like that, and interpretation is storytelling. It is constructed on facts, but not only facts, not transmission only of facts. So. Ok, še kakšno vprašanje? Drugače bomo rekli.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful conversation.
Yeah, it is like that, but we are not so many, but it was really very interesting. I would like to thank you very much, and I hope that we'll see again in Slovenia or somewhere in Venezia.
Oh, Veneto. Thank you again.
Grazie. E buon lavoro.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. Okay.